Hello, Mr. Canto. What's your name? Your full name, please.
My full name is James Aaron Canto Schwabland.
How do you spell the last one?
SCHWABLAND.
Do you have any nicknames?
Aaron Canto, AC.
What is your address?
My address, my personal address,
Yes.
96 Pearl Street, Cambridge, Mass. 02139.
What is your phone number?
443 890 3142.
Your email?
acanto@bostonprep.org.
A Canto?
Yep.
Your date of birth?
June 21st, 1988.
Your place of birth?
Baltimore, Maryland.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Tell people that.
Your cultural background?
I guess Puerto Rican, with I guess I identify as white, but with Hispanic affiliation.
Yes. Now, how long have you been living in the community?
Here in Boston,
Yeah.
I moved here in 2006 in the fall for college. So I've been here for about 11 years.
Where else have you lived?
I've lived in Chestnut Hill, where BC's campus is. I've lived in Roxbury. I've lived in Alston. And I've lived in Cambridge for the last 5 years. 6 years, really. So a little bit all over Boston.
Do you have any spouses or children?
I have a girlfriend, no children though.
What is your occupation?
College counselor, like an educator.
So, do you have any skills, activities, anything you like doing?
Like in my free time,
Yeah.
playing music. I collect records. I really enjoy fantasy baseball. I enjoy running, biking. And it's really just exploring the city, whether they be food fairs, food markets, craft fairs, whatever. Just kind of seeing what's happening in the variety of neighborhoods that make up Boston and Cambridge.
Okay. Is there anything else you'd like to tell me about?
I think that's good, yeah.
Okay. How about your education?
Education?
Yeah.
So I went to a 4-year private all-boys college prep school called Calvert Hall, which is in Towson, Maryland. It's about 20 minutes away from downtown Baltimore City. And then after that, I went to BC for 4 years and received a bachelor's degree in international relations.
Now I have a list of questions for you, where you basically be answering for my research project, which is about the Boston Marathon.
Okay.
Are you fine? You're fine with all the recording and everything?
Yeah, totally.
So, do you have a passion for running?
I do. I wouldn't say So I used to run in high school a lot. I did cross country and I ran track and field, indoor and outdoor. But actually, I wasn't not a big fan of long distance. I did cross country. I hated it. I hated running 3-4 miles for meets. So when I went to track, I eventually transitioned into running hurdles, so short distance, 110 and the 300. But I always kind of enjoyed and found a nice sense of peace in running long distance, casually and just for fun on weekends. I really didn't plan on running the marathon until my grandmother passed away, and decided why not try to do something that's physically challenging and kind of dedicate and commit that year of running and training to her. So it kind of was that moment, or that event that led me to take that jump to actually run the marathon.
Okay. So when you ran the marathon, who did you run with? Like what time? When was this?
Yeah, so I ran last year. So I think it was like April 22nd, 2016 was the actual date. And I didn't qualify. So there's two ways to run the Boston Marathon. Either you qualify based on your age and like your time bracket, or you can run for a nonprofit. So I ran for a nonprofit called Build On, that does like community service learning work in a few schools here in Boston. So I was able to connect with this nonprofit. I learned about their work, expressed my interest in running for them, and I set out to raise donations for their work here in Boston.
Okay. How many marathons have you been in?
I've only been in one, but after doing this one, while it was painful, I did enjoy it overall. So I probably would do more in the future. Maybe not Boston because of how you have to either qualify or raise money. So traveling somewhere like Alaska or Chicago to run their marathons would be like a great experience and something I've considered.
Have you ever like had the fear of a terrorist attack happening during the Boston Marathon?
Actually, until the marathon bombings in 2012, I think that was the year, I never thought that anything would ever happen in Boston.
Okay. So like, what are your thoughts on Muslim Americans?
I think they're an essential part of our society. I think they're crucial to our culture and have brought a lot of fantastic things to America on a macro level, but also like on a micro level. The students I've engaged with here at Boston Prep, or just kind of in passing, they're amazing people and friendly, and I think add to our city.
Okay. And you said you've heard about the Boston Marathon bombing. Can you tell us, give us in detail, when this happened, where were you?
Yeah. So in 2012, I used to work at this nonprofit called City Year Boston, and they have an office in downtown Copley, which is like right near the finish line. And growing up, going to BC, I used to always watch the marathon on Marathon Monday on campus. And then when I was working at City Year, usually during my lunch break, I would always walk over and watch at least part of the race, because that day students are off. So my work day, being a nonprofit focused in education, when students are off, our days are a little slower. So I would usually take the morning to do work, grab lunch, and kind of leave work early to kind of finish watching the race and kind of just enjoy the marathon day with friends. So that day I actually left work probably around 1:30, kind of later lunch, walked to the Peru, watched the end of the race for about 15-20 minutes, and then walked to Mass Ave and grabbed the one bus back to Cambridge. And it was exactly when I got home is when all the news came out about the bombing and what had happened. And my cell phone was kind of shut off, the wires and connection were really poor, so I couldn't get in touch with any of my friends. And I just kind of was stuck to the TV watching the news as it was kind of updating live what was going on in Boston and what was kind of happening.
So how did you react to this?
I was kind of in shock, because I think when 9/11 happened, I was in 8th grade, and I was able to express fear and worry and shock then. But I think now, I was at that time, 2012, I was 24, 25, I think I had a better understanding of what was happening, and kind of my reaction and my fear felt very palpable and very concerning to me. So I think to me, I was really scared and wondering what was going to happen, wondering if anyone I knew was at the finish line, where were my friends, where was my girlfriend, just kind of wondering what was going on. And people were trying to get in contact with me. So I had friends that lived in San Francisco, my family was still in Baltimore, so they were trying to reach out to me to kind of make sure that I was okay too. So kind of a state of panic, a state of uncertainty, really.
Did anybody run the marathon during that year and maybe get hurt or injured or talk
That
about
year, I don't know. So there's always a team that runs with City Year. I'm not sure if I knew anyone directly, very on a personal level that was running, but I knew people from City Year who were running for City Year. So I knew by association some who were running. But luckily, no one I knew through City Year or through a different network was hurt during the event.
Um, like how has the Boston Marathon affected your thoughts on Muslim Americans?
Um, I think my personal opinion of Muslim Americans hasn't changed. I think they are essential to our society and our fabric and bring a lot of fantastic things to our society. I think on a macro level, however, I know immediately after the bombings, there were a lot of like racial incidences in Boston and elsewhere that were targeted towards this group of people based on just like their association with radical Islam, or just like this idea that like if you're Muslim, you are radical and are a terrorist. So I think I dealt with like a lot of people maybe on social media that I knew from high school or from like elementary school or even like from college who had differing opinions than mine. And that was, I think, an eye-opening experience to me to see kind of like while my views hadn't changed, clearly people I knew and like associated with had very different opinions.
Do you ever see yourself attending like another Boston Marathon in the future?
Totally. I would make it a priority every day. If I'm here in Boston, I'm watching the marathon.
Yeah. Is it because like you're not afraid, or because you want to run and say like to justify like the means, like saying like, okay, I'm running because I'm not afraid, or just because you want to run,
Yeah, I don't think I ran because I wanted to show the world that I wasn't afraid. I ran more for personal reasons, for my grandmother especially. But I think like, I think on that day especially, like you want to like show your pride and show how the city has rebounded and how the city is still standing. So I think whether it be running or cheering or even just watching on TV, like I think it's a patriotic thing to do and something to like kind of show that like you are still in this community with this community, and I think still accepting of those who are running, because there are people from all over the world that come to Boston to run that weekend. So I think it's just celebrating what it means for Boston on the world stage.
Okay. So you talk about like your grandma like basically like kind of like instigating like you to run the marathon.
Mm-hmm.
But like before she died, would you say like there was like, can you say like there was any reason for you maybe to run before, like?
Yeah. I think I've always, whenever I watch the marathon, I'd always be like, man, like it'd be so cool to run this. 'Cause I think it is like a huge physical accomplishment to achieve. And I'd always like toyed with the idea of doing it. I think just like my grandmother's passing was like a moment where like it just seemed like I had to do it.
Okay. Do you have any friends? Okay. So like, well, how about like your friends after that? Do you think they would be attending the marathon?
Yeah, I think like I've had friends run the marathon after me. I feel like I always know like 4 or 5 people every year that's running the marathon. And like, yeah, none of my friends have like decided to ever like hold back from watching. They are always either watching the Red Sox game before they're going to watch, or using the entire day just to watch the race. And it's like, I think it's the best marathon in the world, man. From like mile 0 to mile 26, like there are fans shoulder to shoulder just cheering you on constantly.
Sounds good.